I can't believe this is happening. Battlefield 6 is going to be a problem. Not because the game failed, no, because the game succeeded. It's a roaring success. And I think that that alone goes to prove that all the excuses that we've been fed by AAA are largely not even real. The amount of times that we've been fed the lie by these guys that the games that we want to play, the games that we're looking for, are too demanding, too expensive, too technically impossible to be able to achieve. That without live service elements baked into every single form and function of these games, they can't even survive. But Battlefield 6 is doing it anyway. Imagine having a live service game where the live service elements aren't even a part of the identity of the game. The reason why Battlefield 6 is working right now is because the act of playing the game is just enough for players to get by. The gunplay, the chaos, the performance, Portal, it all works. Imagine that. Players do not need to get baited back every single day to come and play your game when the game itself is fun. And that used to be the baseline. Today, it's revolutionary. EA was only able to pull this off because they brought all of their studios together to be able to work on this game. DICE, Ripple Effect, Criterion, and they did it all under the leadership of Vince Zampella, the same guy that goes on Twitter the day that the EA app breaks down and players aren't even able to play the game and says, play it on Steam. Refund the game, play it on Steam. A competitor's platform. That's what you get when you have a leader that actually understands the perspective of the players, the perspective of their customers. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about the success of Battlefield 6. I want to talk about what this says about where the rest of the industry is right now and why I think the future of live service is not caring about it at all. Today's video is sponsored by Starforge Systems, the team behind some of the highest quality PC builds that I have ever seen. Whether you're looking for a full tower monster or a clean, compact form factor setup, these guys know how to make a rig that looks good and performs like a dream. Their custom cases and collaborative designs are slick, practical, and genuinely feel built by people that love what they do. If you've been thinking about upgrading or getting a new setup entirely, check out Starforge Systems using the link in the description. Hell has frozen over, my friends. We have a multi-platform AAA release that I can confidently say is a damn good video game, one that largely delivered on what players have been asking for, not just from Battlefield, but from the industry as a whole. No weird messaging, no pop-ups asking for more money, though I'm sure that's probably going to be coming later. No performance issues, no CEOs like Randy Pitchford jumping onto Twitter to lecture players about a premium game made for premium gamers. God, how embarrassing this launch must be for him. Imagine watching a high-fidelity, globally released, well-optimized shooter land right after your cel-shaded catastrophe. I guess that would be pretty embarrassing, about as embarrassing as saying it would be a long time before your game goes on sale, only for that same game to go on sale less than a month after its release. Now, sure, I could nitpick, I could point out the half-hearted campaign, give it a 5 out of 10 like IGN, but at this point, I'm just trying to win battles to eventually win the war. Some expectations need to be rebuilt one step at a time, because the people that made Bad Company 2 aren't at DICE anymore, and the ones that replaced them were told that single-player games just don't sell. The campaign might be weak, but in this case, it's also irrelevant because, well, the lack of it really hasn't slowed down this game's success one bit. Battlefield 6 launched to 747,000 concurrent players on Steam, helping the platform to break its all-time concurrent player record of 41.6 million users. It's reportedly now sold 1.7 million copies in pre-sale alone, generating $100 million before the game even came out. It's now expected to hit 5 million copies in the first week, or more, now judging by how overwhelmingly positive the reception of the game has been. Outside of a few Call of Duty streamers whining about how it's not the game of their choice, disappointed that it doesn't have diamond-encrusted weapons, kill streaks, or movement designed to make you motion sick, Battlefield's multiplayer has received nearly universal praise. I remember during the game's closed beta leading up to its release, a few Call of Duty streamers were making headlines with their complaints. Those complaints have still now continued even till today, and just the other day, I summed up the entire conversation in a post on Twitter where I'd said, I think it's just the ego disconnect from playing a game that isn't about you. Battlefield isn't about you, it's about what your team does. Streaming, especially in competitive shooters, is built around performance. It's about you being the show. Battlefield doesn't really work like that. It's slower, heavier, and more deliberate. It's about coordination, strategy, and creativity, the kind of moments that you can't script. That is a hard adjustment for people that have built their entire careers around kill feeds and clips, but it's exactly what Battlefield fans love about the series. Battlefield rewards participation over perfection. It's the collective chaos that doesn't care about who's on top of the scoreboard. I've been playing a lot of Battlefield 6 myself, and honestly, it took a lot for me to be able to pry myself away from the game long enough to be able to make this video, but it's been incredible. I've been jumping into matches with friends that I haven't played with since Battlefield 4, and for the first time in years, I'm actually in love with a first-person shooter again. It's not flawless, that's for damn sure. I'd still prefer them to have weapon lock classes. I'm still pretending like they are, but everything else just clicks. The gunplay feels good, the progression feels fair, and the maps are some of the most detailed and reactive that I've ever seen. Every single match has those trademark Battlefield moments, a jet screaming overhead, a helicopter crashing right next to you, dragging your teammate out of the wreckage while explosions are going off all around you. It's just so cinematic and fun. And that's what so many people, especially the industry, have forgotten. The fun factor in modern shooters has just been buried under all this competitive obsession. Every single new release pushes these skill ceilings even higher, faster movement, more punishing mechanics, until the only people that are left enjoying these games are the ones that are playing it for a job. The genre has gone from being accessible to being about being aspirational, made for professionals, not for the actual players. That's why Battlefield 6 is standing out right now, because the game is just fun again. It's designed for the people who actually want to play, not for the ones that want to monetize it. Well, except for EA, they're definitely going to be making money off it, but I hope they understand why. First and foremost, this game succeeded because EA finally concentrated what talent they have left. They have always had the capability of making something great. I would imagine you'd be able to with 15,000 employees, but they can't really do that when they're spreading all that talent thin across so many different failing projects. When you look back at Battlefield 2042, that game was a disaster. It was rushed out in just 2 years because EA wanted to compete with Call of Duty Warzone during COVID, but DICE carried the entire workload of that game while the rest of EA Studios just sat on the sideline, and the result is exactly what you would expect, a broken, unfinished mess. Now, this time's the opposite. Battlefield 6 got 4 years in development and an all-in studio approach. DICE, Ripple Effect, Criterion, all working as one. That kind of collaboration is rare for EA, but it's exactly what had to happen, because the truth is, they just don't have the same people anymore. The best of DICE left years ago to form Embark Studios. The rest of BioWare left way before that. Without those original voices and that creative leadership, EA's remaining teams just don't have the same foundation. To be able to make something great again, they have to pull everything together. They have to pull their talent, their time, and all of the right leadership. And in this case, that leadership is coming from Vince Zampella, the same guy behind Modern Warfare 2007, Modern Warfare 2 2009, Titanfall, Apex Legends, and the Star Wars Jedi series. While there is plenty to critique about how Apex has evolved, he is one of the few remaining studio heads in AAA who clearly thinks about the players first. When Battlefield 6 was having launch issues with EA's app, Zampella publicly told players just to buy it on Steam, the competitor's platform, and he said that that's where he's playing it himself. That's humility, my friend, something that I greatly respect. Someone putting their players' experience first instead of the company line. And honestly, I think that shows in the game too, because Battlefield 6 feels like a game that was made by people who are actually playing what they are building. Every decision, from the way that weapons handle to the way that the maps flow, feel grounded in player experience, not corporate objectives. EA gave them the time, the resources, and for once, the right person to put in charge, and the result, I think, speaks for itself. Now, before you guys are sitting there saying, hey, wait, LD's being a little bit too gracious towards a AAA studio, there is a tragic side to this story, and it's that it shouldn't take 4 studios and a veteran like Vince Zampella to be able to make one functional Battlefield game. 4 years in development, probably $500 million spent, and a total restructuring of EA's shooter division. Are you kidding me? All to deliver what should be the baseline for AAA. That is not proof of a healthy system. That is proof that this system only works when it's in survival mode. Now, some talent is definitely there, but it's buried under layers of management and a dozen half-finished projects that probably none of us even care about. Battlefield 6 only worked because EA pulled every remaining ounce of focus they had left. And the irony is, this game didn't succeed because of some revolutionary ideas. It succeeded because they finally stopped trying to reinvent the wheel. No weird messaging, no over-engineered retention systems, just a shooter that boots up, runs well, and feels great to play. That's it. That's the secret formula that the rest of the industry somehow forgot. And that doesn't mean that there isn't still some EA stank on this thing, because in their earnings call back in July, they were already setting expectations for Battlefield 6 that this game would reach 100 million players. 100 million players. A number that is so detached from reality that it exceeds the entire lifetime sales for this series. Now, that figure likely is including their projections for their free-to-play Battle Royale that's coming next year, but this is still absurd to me. It's like they looked at Call of Duty Warzone's early pandemic numbers and decided that that's now the minimum for relevance. How do these guys not understand that this is the kind of thinking that nearly killed Battlefield in the first place, chasing somebody else's scale instead of building your own? And now that's the crossroads that they're standing at. Do they double down on the lessons that actually worked, focus, stability, player trust, or do they just repeat the cycle of overproduction, burnout, and the bloat that has swallowed the rest of AAA? Because if this game has proved anything, it's that players just need something that's actually worth playing, and thinking past that is dangerous. I think it's really telling about the state of the AAA industry when the only way that you can get a serviceable game is by getting nearly half of your 15,000 employee company to make one single game for that game to be worthwhile to play. These guys have gotten way too comfortable underpaying the right people, overpaying the wrong people, and making money off of microtransactions that they have completely forgot how the process even works. Hopefully these guys actually learn something from this. Probably not, because they never do, but I can't believe that I'm making yet another relatively positive video on EA, but I give credit where credit is due, and Battlefield 6 is a good game. I have been having so much fun playing this game, and you guys have no idea how long it's been since I've genuinely enjoyed a competitive first-person shooter, or one that I could actually picture myself playing for a extended period of time. They've largely become all unplayable to me. The season passes, the advertising, the microtransactions, the constant shifting metas, the gameplay loop, the ever-extending skill ceiling. I can't keep up with live service games anymore. I like playing too many games, and I still miss having that constant game that I can always go back to and play with my friends. And this feels like one of those games where I can finally have a game to go and just play with my friends whenever I feel like it. I love how dying feels so inconsequential in this game, but capping a point and taking out a squad feels like you're an absolute god. And Battlefield is the only game that's able to pull that off. And that's why this game is so popular right now, because of casual audiences. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are happy to be home. Now, has anybody else noticed that there's no cash shop or battle pass at launch, and how freeing of an environment that has made this game to play? Connect the dots there. Because it was only in this blissful moment of silence without microtransactions that I realized that Battlefield as a game, its DNA is just not built for standard live service models. Mostly because it's not nearly as competitive, and also the game doesn't really rely on a meta. Players are just playing the game because they have fun playing the game. It's not necessarily about your loadouts or weapons or anything like that. And everything that's happening, progression, whatever else, is just a byproduct of having a good time. And I think that in that, it goes to prove just how broken the live service model is. That silence caught me off guard. No store menu blinking in the corner, no battle pass quietly counting down, reminding me that I'm wasting potential XP. Just a menu, a match, and the sound of explosions instead of marketing. It's almost disorienting, like somebody just turned off all the noise that modern shooters have trained us to expect. Now, sure, all that is eventually going to be here. We're going to eventually see a cosmetic shop and season passes. We know that they're coming, but the difference is right now, they're not the center of gravity, and the game still works. We're in that rare window where the game just exists on its own terms, unburdened by the monetization orbit that every other shooter has immediately locked themselves into. It's freeing, and it weirdly makes me less worried about the incoming monetization, because Battlefield's identity is antithetical to modern live service. Somewhere along the way, live service stopped meaning support and started meaning surveillance. Every single UI pop-up is just a behavioral nudge. Every season pass is an anxiety machine. The industry sold it to us as freedom, play how you want, whenever you want, but in reality, it was all just tying people to schedules. I think that's what eventually turned me off of live service games almost entirely. So many of them require you to constantly stay on the hamster wheel. You can look at modern MMOs, Call of Duty, and countless other games, but the pattern is always the same. Progress and rewards are designed to keep you relevant, not to keep the game relevant, no, to keep you relevant. You can boot up Warzone and you could use older weapons, sure, but you're going to get trounced on by players that are using whatever the newest gun that dropped with the latest game or the latest battle pass. And MMOs, new raids and dungeons will roll out, and suddenly everything that you've accomplished, everything you've earned is now obsolete. Players are trapped in this constant loop where their time isn't being rewarded, it's being erased. Every single update resets the finish line just to keep you pushing, keep you playing, and most importantly, keep you paying. But that model has a shelf life, especially when you start looking at the few live service games that have actually lasted. Fortnite is the one that every single publisher wishes they had, but for whatever reason, these guys just don't understand how it actually works. They keep trying to reshape their games to match its success, hoping that the money will then follow. But the reason that Fortnite stays relevant is because the relevance isn't tied to you, it's tied to the game itself. You don't grind for guns, you just grab whatever you find on the drop. The game resets every match, not every season. It's loot-driven, round-based, and built entirely around the experience of playing the game. The progression isn't about what you own, it's about what happens when you play, and that's why people keep coming back to that game. Now, in parallel with Fortnite, and I'm hoping that EA realizes this, that they're actually the most like it right now because the experience is tied to the match, not to the player. Battlefield 6 doesn't need to trick you into playing or force you back onto the hamster wheel just to be able to stay competitive. You play because you want to, because every single round feels like it could go anywhere. There's no sense of efficiency that's hanging over your every decision, and that's largely because Battlefield isn't built around a meta. It's too chaotic, too unpredictable, too alive for that. Every match is its own story, a mix of skill, luck, and pure disaster, and that's what makes this game fun. Sure, there are people that are posting builds and loadouts right now, but this game isn't Call of Duty where you're grinding for one weapon because it's the only viable option. I'm basically playing Battlefield 6 like weapon classes are locked anyway. I'm sniping on recon, running an SMG as engineer because that's how the game is meant to be played. You can build the most perfect M4A1 with zero recoil, but it's not going to matter. I capped more objectives. I got just as many kills. My relevance isn't tied to what I'm using. It's tied to how I use it and how I play the game. For once, I don't feel like I'm wasting my time for doing things the fun way. There isn't a single moment where I feel inefficient because I'm not worried about efficiency. That's not how you play Battlefield. I'm just playing the game. It was in that I realized that even when EA eventually drops a battle pass or cosmetic shop, those things likely won't matter to most players. The new weapons just won't impact the game the same way that they do everywhere else. The best sniper and the best SMG don't really mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things when you could just as easily run into a tank, a jet, a guy on a turret, or an attack helicopter. Battlefield is too chaotic for a meta to matter. Outside of a few extra kills, there's really no right way to play. And that's what makes me think this might be the real future, the right way to run a live service game. It's the idea of divorcing your monetization from the gameplay experience itself. Battlefield 6, right now they're just doing this by accident. It's just a byproduct of what the game actually is, but it works. It makes the live service elements feel optional, supportive rather than intrusive, something more cosmetic than compulsive, and that shift takes away the pressure from the players entirely. Beyond that, and I think this is where the true end game of live service is, this time it's something that EA is deliberately emulating from Fortnite and Roblox, and that's player-generated content. One of Battlefield 6's key features is the portal. Inside of it, players have near unlimited access to the game's systems, and they can create whatever they want. One of the first things that people built was Shipment, a map straight out of Call of Duty. Others have made flying tutorials, SOCOM remakes, hell, even full-on sandbox modes. There's a browser now that lets you actually search for player creations and jump into whatever you want to. A lot of it is still rudimentary, remade maps, jumping puzzles, small experiments, but the potential here is insane. Somebody already made Space Invaders inside of Battlefield. Simple, sure, but it shows just how much flexibility and creativity these tools are allowing. We don't even know how deep this is going to go. Maybe somebody builds their own campaign or a looter shooter or something that nobody's even thought of yet, but I think that one thing is clear from these tools. By freeing the players from the live service rat race and giving them the tools to be able to shape their own experiences, EA has now created more reasons and more ways to be able to play their game beyond what is predefined. They've turned longevity into a real possibility for this game. I don't think that Battlefield 6 is some comeback story. I think that it's a reminder of what happens when a publisher accidentally does everything right. When you focus on the fundamentals, when you let people actually play instead of perform, when you stop designing around the fear of disengagement and start trusting good design and realizing that's enough. The success of this game isn't an argument for more content, more seasons, or more live service expansions. It's just proof that maybe the players were never the problem to begin with. The industry is. And if the lesson here is that fun still works, that stability still matters, that the players will always choose quality over coercion, then maybe this is the start of seeing something better. But knowing EA, knowing this industry, they'll likely try to bottle lightning and sell it as a subscription. Maybe I'm wrong about how the game plays, but I just don't see cosmetic shops or battle passes or season passes or whatever else actually making an impact in how the game plays, because it's just not how this game actually is. That's not me saying that that stuff isn't going to be there or it isn't going to sell, but if EA wants it to be that way, they're going to have to force it to be that way, which then would ruin the game entirely, and well, that's not out of the realm of possibilities. I'd only realized this when I'd saw some images pop up on Twitter of people's tier lists of some of the weapons, and then all of a sudden I started getting fed YouTube videos of people showing off their meta builds, and I just thought to myself, who cares? I just had a match where I went 40-2 in a tank. Why would I care about your perfectly tuned M4A1? It just doesn't make any sense. Players are largely not going to be chasing metas in this game because it just doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And season passes are likely not going to affect that, even if they do introduce new weapons through it. Because most people are just going to be using what they like to use to begin with, because there's no point in trying to chase the best weapons in the game. It doesn't even make any sense. Hell, I'm not even sure if they're even going to be including weapons in the season passes themselves. It might be something else entirely. I just think that games that have their monetization tied directly to how the game performs, the actual gameplay itself, is just a death sentence for a lot of these live service games, because essentially what you're doing is you're just stamping an expiration date on every single season pass, on every single game that you sell. That's the reason why Call of Duty needs to release a new game every single year. Notice that Fortnite has never had to do that. Notice that some of the most successful live service games that are still ongoing largely do not need to release a new game. And if they do, they just update their graphics, and that's the only thing that changes, because that's the only thing that needs to change. By constantly tying your progression and the monetization together, all you're doing is creating more barriers to entry for new players and players that walk away and come back later, or people that just don't have the time to be able to keep up with it. I just don't see it being a problem for Battlefield 6. Maybe it will be. If it is, that's because EA made it that way. Player-generated content. That is the one thing that I will say is probably the future for this industry, because not only does it give an insane amount of replayability to a lot of these games, but also at the exact same time, these guys are going to be able to see what the players make, understand what the players are looking for, implement some of those things into their game, see how many people are actually playing these things to begin with, and have a much easier time at being able to chart their course in the future. I mean, it's way better than any other engagement metric or demographic or whatever else you could potentially come up with. And we've seen this in just about every game that includes mods as well. I think that Stalker Anomaly, the mod, is more popular than the game series has ever been. Baldur's Gate 3 is never going to die because of modding. Battle Royales and MOBAs exist because of modding. Player-created content it's the future in a lot of cases. I think it's going to be big, very big. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, comment down below. Let me know what you guys are thinking of Battlefield 6. If you guys been enjoying it, if you guys want to catch me live, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, where I'm talking shit daily. And I'm out of here. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Family, 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 family.